This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, hello, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to another Sports Catastrophe birthday boy. And this birthday boy, I know that he seems to be kind of pathetic and all that. And why this guy? But basically, I've talked about him positively in a NCAA football late. Basically, it's not about how you do in the NFL sometimes. It's basically how you do in college and all that. And Matt Leinart was the star quarterback for USC around the time I started getting serious about college football once I moved to Kitchener in 2004. So anyway, Matt Leinart is 38 years old. He won the Heisman Trophy in his junior year with USC. He was picked 10th by the Cardinals in the 2006 NFL Draft. Kind of a travesty. But unfortunately, Leinart was released because after a Cardinals career that basically saw him as Kurt Warner's backup. He would be basically in a backup role for the Texans and Raiders. So basically, Leinart wasn't given much chance to be a starter. So anyway, Leinart was a decent player. He would redshirt in 2001 and would be the backup to Carson Palmer for the 2002 USC season. Of course, Palmer won the Heisman Trophy and was picked first overall by the Bengals in the 2003 draft. Leinart would have to compete with redshirt junior Matt Castle, who was Palmer's backup the previous season, and a Purdue transfer for the starting quarterback position. Leinart thankfully got that part. Leinart told the coaching staff at USC, "You won't regret this." Yeah. But Leinart basically helped things out. He got USC to be ranked number 1 in the AP and coaches polls, despite missing out on the BCS championship game. Because the BCS bowl stuff, the ranking stuff was bullshit back in 2004. That Oklahoma and LSU would end up playing for the national title game and left USC out. They suffered a loss to UCal, California University, but that was in triple overtime. But Leinart would have had a Rose Bowl MVP performance against the Michigan Wolverines. 327 yards, 3 touchdowns, and even caught a touchdown of his own. He would be 6th in Heisman voting for the 04 season. The 05 season, 03-04. And then in 2004-05, USC looked good and all that. And did pretty well. He was in New York for the Heisman ceremony as finalist alongside Reggie Bush, his teammate, Adrian Peterson, Jason White, who won the last Heisman, who was trying to do what Archie Griffin of Ohio State did, win back-to-back Heismans, and Utah's Alex Smith, who I talked about in a video just 4 short days ago. So anyway, he ended up winning it. It was close, but he won it. And helped the USC go wire to wire number 1 and got to the BCS title game against Oklahoma. White would take on Leinart, which would be the first time 2 Heisman winners would play against each other in a bowl. Wow. Sadly, though, it was not a highly anticipated game as USC crushed Oklahoma in a fine powder, 55-19, which was fantastic. He was Orange Bowl MVP, and the Trojans got the BCS title, extending their winning streak to 22 games. The only problem was, retroactively, that doesn't happen because of the Reggie Bush scandal. Thankfully, the AP National Championship stood. Like, they allowed the AP. So, yeah, they lost the BCS title. The 2005-06 Trojans had a perfect regular season as well, 12-0. Leinart would have a great performance against Notre Dame and would actually shockingly make a good 4th and 9 play at the Trojans' 26-yard line with 1:36 left against the Irish. Leinart scored on a quarterback sneak that got USC past Notre Dame. However, it's subject to controversy because of what seemed to be a push from running back Reggie Bush that kind of seemed illegal and all that. Leinart ended up taking third in the Heisman ceremony, behind his teammate Reggie Bush and Vince Young. But as a former Heisman winner, he was allowed to cast a ballot, and he decided to give Bush the first place. I guess because Bush helped him in the end zone. But Matt Leinart would be the starting quarterback for USC, one of the greatest hyped games of all time. USC Texas, 1-2 at the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. So it was huge to see USC Texas. I actually picked Texas to beat USC. I'm like, well, Texas might pull something out of the hat. I told my friends. Leinart did great, 365 yards, but unfortunately, Vince Young beat him to the punch with 467 yards of total offense, rushed for 3 touchdowns, including that famous touchdown on 4th and 6 with the national championship on the line, and one of Hugh Jackson's last great calls. The Trojans would have their 34-game winning streak snapped because of that. And yes, his number 11 was retired at USC. So anyway, he did pretty well for himself. 99 touchdown passes at USC in 3 seasons as being the starter of that. He was projected to be first overall in 2005, but he decided to go back to USC. He was still a good prospect, but basically he wasn't the same guy. The 2006 draft had Houston start off on the clock, and they picked Mario Williams, defensive end from NC State. He did get to a few Pro Bowls, but basically Houston gets shat on because of the number 2 pick being Reggie Bush of USC, and basically Houston could have used Reggie Bush's stuff. So New Orleans got Reggie Bush 2nd overall, which was huge for the franchise and for Bush himself because, New Orleans was getting off Hurricane Katrina, and Reggie would help him out. Tennessee would take Vince Young, the guy who took down Leinart in the title game. The Jets went with one offensive tackle to Brickashaw Ferguson. Don't know why. I don't know who their quarterback was at the time. Was it Pennington? Anyway, Green Bay went for A.J. Hawk, linebacker for Ohio State. It wasn't so bad, but Hawk wasn't good. San Fran went with Vernon Davis, the tight end from Maryland, who basically gave Mike Singletary headaches as the Niners coach. Michael Huff went 7th to Oakland from the University of Texas, safety. Okay. Buffalo went with Dante Whitner, safety from Ohio State. So, and Detroit went with Ernie Sims from Florida State, linebacker. Didn't work. Arizona was next on the clock, and they got Matt Leinart. They got their quarterback. The next pick was a quarterback, too, as Denver took Jay Cutler. I guess 7 for Cutler instead of Leinart. So, yeah. He would spend 4 years with the Cardinals. Basically, he was a backup and all that. Unfortunately, he had problems with a contract negotiation. He was the last member of the 2006 draft to sign a contract, so he's agreed to a 6-year deal. Matt Leinart did pretty well for himself against the 5-0 Bears in Week 6 of the 2006 season. Sadly, though, the Bears used their special teams to take down the Cardinals on Monday Night Football. Dennis Green went off like a rocket. Against the Vikings in November, he would set NFL rookie record for passing yards, 405 yards. He did okay, 2,500 plus yards in his rookie campaign and 11 touchdowns, but 4-7 as starting quarterback. He would start the 2007 season as a starting quarterback, but then Ken Whisenhunt decided to make Kurt Warner the situation quarterback. And Leinart would have a fractured left collarbone, basically ending the season in October 2007. In 2 seasons, he basically suffered 2 season-ending injuries, thanks to being sacked and all that. Worst of all, the Cardinals had a late-season surge with Warner as the head. All that. Unfortunately, Leinart had a bad preseason in 2008, and Kurt Warner was made to be the starting quarterback. And took the Cardinals to the Super Bowl, cementing him as a starter and Leinart as a backup. Unfortunately, he had issues and was released in 2010, 2 days after the final preseason game, in favor of Derek Anderson and a few rookies, Max Hall and John Skelton. Really? You couldn't beat a guy with the last name Skelton? So, basically, Houston signed him to a deal, 1-year contract to back up Matt Schaub. And Leinart didn't play at all. Not even there. There were rumors that Seattle was willing to pick him up because Pete Carroll was the coach for the Seahawks and all that. But he decided to return to Houston as backup for the 2011 season. Leinart would actually come in after a shoulder injury, and unfortunately, he fractured his collarbone and was replaced by TJ Yates. Leinart would then get the indignity of being released by the Texans and then would sign to Oakland to be the backup to his former college teammate Carson Palmer. Unfortunately, though, he failed miserably. Leinart had a chance to play for Buffalo in 2013 after a couple of injuries. Leinart lost the fight for the fourth-string quarterback job with Thad Lewis, honestly. Buffalo just couldn't do it with Matt Leinart. Pathetic. So anyway, in his career, he would only play 33 games, start only 18. He would have 4,000 passing yards in his career, 15 touchdowns, 21 interceptions. Leinart is a key member for Fox in their college football studio stuff. Leinart has two sons, one with a former USC basketball player, but the couple parted ways before the son's birth. And Leinart is married to mentalist actress Josie Gloring. So, yeah. So he has two sons. That's not bad. But Matt Leinart basically could have been so much better if they gave him a chance. But Kurt Warner made another massive comeback to the Leinart's chagrin. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. Thank you for watching. Adieu.